Most of you here have been to all our Millin functions. No, there's no Millin function without a speech. And I have volunteered to make the speech tonight. I can't, my voice doesn't go louder. And first of all, I want to just say thanks to my sister and Manny for coming all the way from San Diego. To Anthony, Rebecca, to Sarah and Barry, to Lynn and Daryl and family, and all my Anthony, Rebecca and family for coming all the way from Maryland. I would this would not be a happy party without you. And to my friend Barbara, who's here from South Africa and changed all her schedule to be here today. So many of you have traveled so far. Arlene and Robert, who just took 4 hours to get here from Roslyn, and Stan and Estelle, who traveled from the Berkshires, and so many of you from so far, and Mark and Patty from the shore. Thank you, thank you. Okay, as I look around this room, I am really very overwhelmed, and if you're going to turn it, go away. I feel really, really, really blessed to have all of you guys, my close family and close friends, here tonight, because everybody who's here have just been unbelievably supportive and wonderful over the past 6 months. And I will say, I really don't think we could have got through this without each and every one of you. I mean, I must say thanks for your constant visits, your telephone calls, your emails, your texts. I mean, so many of you are counting down Henry's chemos. So many of you are counting down my radiation treatments. I would get emails, only 13 left, only 4 left. And I just want to say, without you all, I really don't think I could have made it. You do really have to talk about my 3 children, Annie and Rebecca, Gary and Lainey, and Jean and Andrew. Don't look at me. No, don't. Because without your support, I just we couldn't have done it. But, and my sister, who has not called me once a day for 6 months, but 2 or 3 times a day, checking before chemo, after chemo, before radiation, I just want to say thank you. Above and beyond everybody who's been wonderful, I have to talk about my little brother whose birthday it is today. And happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Henry. Happy birthday to you. Where's Lorraine? Lorraine's birthday too. Happy birthday, Lorraine. And not only Erin, but my sister-in-law Alice. She got it from me. So I can honestly say, without these 2, Henry and I would have just collapsed. And as for last weekend, with Henry in the hospital with his pneumonia, and Gina in Provence, my brother was the one I called at 2 in the morning. Alice was the one who babysat the 3 kids, and I couldn't have done it without you guys. Thank you. Now, I do have to just, for 2 minutes, I know it's hot and it's long, just talk about my amazing husband, who has come out of 6 months of chemo and is first of all the only person who after 6 months still went for a haircut yesterday.
Have a haircut yesterday, stop it. Stand, I'll compete with you.
And who in 6 months has not as ever complained. He has not missed one day of work. He has not missed one function. We haven't missed going to see any of Matthew or Rachel's shows, even if it was a chemo weekend. Grandpa had chemo the day before. We were there to see everything. Henry has not missed one thing this past 6 months. Just to end one story, last week when he was at the hospital with his pneumonia, and Alice and Eri were already there when I got there, and Andy called me on the way there and said, Mom, you have to call the oncologist, Dr. Radowich, and just tell her to read Daddy the Right Act. He has to take it easy. He's got to relax. He can't be watering the garden at 10 o'clock and then running to his office, and then he just can't. So you have to tell Dr. Radowich. I said, and as soon as I'm finished my visit with Daddy, I will call Dr. Radowich. Eri and Alice, you can testify to this, and I was sitting in the room when Dr. Radowich walked in, and I nearly fell into her arms, and I said, phew, thank God you're here, because Henry said, you're the only person he'll listen to. I said, you've got to tell Henry what to do and how to stop going to work every day, to relax, because whatever you tell him to do, he'll do double. So she took one look at me and she said, I will not tell him to stop anything, because out of every patient I've ever had who's been on chemo, he is the most amazing. And that's because he never put himself to bed, he never canceled one function, he never stopped doing anything. And I certainly am not telling him, you go ahead with your party next Sunday, and I'm not telling Henry to stop anything. Thank you all. Sorry it's so hot. Sorry it's raining.
Before people leave, we can't let my dad, my sister, brother, and I certainly can't let an occasion like this go without saying something about my mom. She said such beautiful things about my dad. But before we get to that, and before we speak about my mom, there are just two things I wanted to talk about. First, to all of you, I want to say thank you. My parents just are surrounded by, the most incredible family and the most special, dear group of friends. And there hasn't really been one day since all of this started that we haven't had a phone call with our parents where they haven't just said what an incredible support group they have, just the love and the support and the encouragement that just poured in on a daily basis. They're really, between Gary and Gina and I, we haven't had one phone call in 6 months that didn't start with you guys and everything that you've done and you're doing. And my parents, on a daily basis would tell us just how lucky they are to have such an incredible group of friends and family around them. And I think even the fact, when a few weeks ago my parents came up with this idea for this party, and it was the middle of the summer, it was only a few weeks' notice. There's only a certain small number of weekends in the summer. People make their plans months ahead of time. My parents were hoping there'd just be a few people who would be around who would show up. And the invitations went out, and one after another, the responses came back. We wouldn't miss this. We delaying our vacation a week. We changing our weekend plans. I mean, everyone did what they could to be here. And, I think it's a testament to all of you, and it's a real testament to my parents that everybody's here today. So that's the first thing from Gary and Gina and I. We want to also extend our thanks to all of you. The next thing I just want to briefly talk about is just my parents as a team. When we got my dad's diagnosis and the whirlwind started, And then a couple of weeks later, a few weeks later, suddenly my mom got her diagnosis, and now we were dealing with two of these at the same time and trying to process everything. My parents took, they took a few weeks just to absorb everything that was happening to them and all of the information that was coming in, and just really trying to put some scope and perspective around it all. And then just a few weeks after that, they kind of sent the message out to Gary and Gina and I, and they said three things. Number one, we're not getting down. This is not going to get us down. Number two, we're not changing one plan that we've made this summer. So don't anyone change the plan. We're not changing one thing that is set for the summer. And the third thing they said, which worried us the most, was we're not slowing down at all. It worried us because, as most of you know, my parents' regular pace is like that of a 20-year-old triathlete. And so knowing and seeing all the protocols and all the treatments and what their schedules are going to look like for the next few months, to hear them say that they were not going to slow down one drop, definitely got us a little worried. But my parents have always lived by example and taught by example. And I can say, as we sit here now 6 months later, they truly followed those. They never once got down. They never canceled one plan, and they never once slowed down. And I'll give you just a little mirror of just like a 24-hour period a couple of weeks ago, just to give you a sense of how real this is. My dad had just finished his 11th treatment. The impact of chemo is cumulative, so he was reaching like his peak side effects. My mom had just finished her treatments. It wasn't challenging enough to be dealing with my dad and her own treatments. That wasn't challenging enough. She thought this would be a great time to break her foot. So to make it a little harder. So she did that. And so, Rebecca and I called and we said, you guys had plans to come next week. Matthew was starring in Oklahoma. Rachel was starring in a hip-hop show. We said, there's so much going on. There's going to be shows later in August. Just take 2 days. There's so much happening. Just take just take a couple of days. And the message came back, you kidding? You think we would miss this? They were up at 6:30. My dad had a big work meeting that took them to midday. They hopped in a car. They got stuck in a little traffic that took about 4.5 hours to get down. Without break, they were sitting in the theater an hour later for Matthew's show.
And it was worth it. And it was worth it.
Then we said to them afterwards that everyone got invited to a little family after show get together. We said, why don't you go back? We have 2 cars. Have a little rest. Are you kidding? We're not going to miss this. We're back at midnight after they started at early the next morning. Then they have this wonderful tradition when they sleep over with Matthew and Rachel climb into their bed first thing in the morning, and they all have very special time together. We said to my parents, Rebecca and I said, why don't tomorrow we skip it or start a little bit later? The kids are happy to just let you guys sleep in. They said, what time do they wake up? We said, it could be as early as 6:30. Send them in. And there they were, 6:30, and the weekend went on like that. They just didn't miss a beat. And, I think it's really amazing. And the last thing I just want to end with is my mom. We spent some time, and she talked about how incredibly well my dad did, and just this incredible attitude and how incredibly well he did. But I have to say that a big reason that my dad did so well and has done so well is he had this incredible rock to stand on, and that rock's my mom. From the moment of the diagnosis, she was on top of every bit of research. She was on top of every doctor. She was on top of every doctor's appointment. She was on top of every medication, of every treatment. She did not miss a beat. She did this while undergoing her own treatment. She did this with a broken foot. And, my dad has this theory that if you ignore a side effect long enough, or a symptom long enough, that she goes away. and while sometimes that works, we know a lot of times it actually doesn't. And so she had the extra job of really having to keep on top of all of these things that were going on and making sure that everything went so smoothly for my dad. So I also just want to, I don't have I have a glass with me, a toast to my dad and also to my mom on this incredible journey.
Beginning of the party, last speech now. There's food, there's wine, there's whiskey, there's food, there's dessert. Now we're only going to take 5 hours to get home. So, no rushes to get out here.
Thank you. Everybody should see this.